This Dad's Bet Baseball MLB team preview for the Baltimore Orioles is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, HOFapp.com. If you are under 30 and watching on YouTube, you probably can QR code this because you don't listen to podcasts. But if you're listening to this in your ear holes, use code DADS, 50% off the first month, 7-day free trial. We use it with pretty much all of our capping for every single sport. This weekend, we have nothing but college basketball, so I will be in there heavy. I have killed it this week on NBA, and I stink at NBA. I've had a really good time going against Scott's angles because I just say, well, Hall of Fame Bets thinks this. It works really well with Handigraphs as well because both of us are pretty data-driven companies. We love Hall of Fame Bets. They are just a friend of the pod, sponsor of the show, and we encourage everybody who's listening to download them and use them, especially because you can look at players even though games are not going on. With that said, very excited to finally have this guest for this Baltimore Orioles pod, Mal Bamford from the MLB Gambling Podcast, one of the first sports media folks I connected with on Twitter, and it was over these very Baltimore Orioles a couple of years ago. Mal, thanks for coming in, man.
Hello, boys. How you doing? I am delighted to be here. This is my first real baseball talk of 2026. I've done a little bit of homework. But this is my first real chat about it. And I never get to chat to anyone. There's no one within 2,000 miles of me who wants to talk about baseball. So this is my first one of the year. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, CJ and I go way too early on this stuff. Like, Matt Brown was telling me the other day, he's like, you were telling me to bet the Baltimore Orioles the first week of December, and like CJ and I did a free agent fantasy draft. We were just like, I
think we had one of the episodes where like, should we riff on baseball for like 5 minutes, and then it ended up being like a 30-minute riff because we were just so excited to start talking about it, and it was only the first week of December. So,
but yeah, Mal, like I trust your judgment on the sport. Your friend, I'm really excited to finally get you on this pod. I'm always on your guys' stuff, so this is going to be fun. Let's talk about these Orioles. So, spoiler alert, I'm pretty high on them, but let's go through what they've been like. 2023, 101 wins. 2024, 91 wins. Still got to playoffs, but that was when we started to see the Brandon Hyde doesn't know what he's doing orchestra, which I was touting for a while. Tinker that lineup, and it eventually falls apart. 75 wins last year. A pie tag of 70. They had a 16-win drop last year, which is pretty substantial. Despite the fact that Gunnar Henderson wasn't really hurt, everybody else was hurt, but Gunnar Henderson pretty much played all the games. I had them at 88 when the numbers opened. Then I moved them at winter meetings up. I've had them at 88. They opened up at 82. We spoiler alert, we loved that. And now the market has them at 85.5. So let's go through who is here. And we got a lot of new faces. I would argue that this roster probably improved the most over what they were needed to do. So new faces. CJ and mine's boy from last year. Well, CJ's always boy. Pete Alonso. He's gonna be in Baltimore.
No longer my boy.
No longer your boy. Pete Alonso, the recent age appropriate to all of us, Chris Bassett, Ryan Helsley, Shane Baz, Taylor Ward, who they already had. His name was Tyler O'Neill, but now they have Taylor Ward, so they have both of those guys. White guys with 30 home run potential and 200K potential. Zach Eflin was re-signed. Blaze Alexander, low-key, really cool trade, and actually very important with the Jackson Holiday injury. Andrew Kittredge, who I was always a big fan of with the Cubs. Leody Taveras, who is apparently an excellent clubhouse guy from the Rangers. And Albert Suarez, who didn't pitch all of last year, but was really good for them as a spot starter, who we knew was an automatic under 15.5 outs because he cannot go a third time through the order. He is re-signed. He had a minor league deal. But here are the guys who are gone. Grayson Rodriguez, who we'll definitely have to talk about that. Jorge Mateo, who stinks, and I didn't realize he went over to the Braves. Tomoyuki Sagano, who is taking his talents to Coors Field. Again, there is not going to be a team worse than the Rockies. That is some of your evidence right there. Gary Sanchez goes to the Brewers and Cade Stroud in that trade with the Diamondbacks. So, guys, opening it up, and Mal, the first thing I will ask you, what do you remember about this team last year from a betting perspective or anything? Like, did you have high hopes beginning? Like, what do you remember about this team last year?
they just kind of went away in May and never came back onto your radar. I feel like I've been waiting for the Orioles for 5 years. They had all these young kids, and they all looked identical. They're all got the blonde hair. They all look like apples. And we were waiting for them, and then they never turned up 3 years ago, and then they never turned up 2 years ago, and we've still been waiting for them. And then last year they just disappeared into the murk, and they never came back. And it's a shame because I feel like I say, we've just been waiting for it to happen. So they have been busy. That's the key. They've been really busy. You've just outlined everything that they've done. I mean, 75 wins last year was a way.
Actually overperformed what they should have given.
Yeah, Pythagorean, etc. But the thing with betting on baseball, and I know it's one of the things we like, and it's something I like about the sport that I don't get in my standard sports, football or whatever, is that you want a team to sneak up on you, or you want a player to sneak up on you. You want to go into the season with a ton of 80-1 shots or a ton of 50-1 player props. And I don't get that with Baltimore this year. I feel like the books have already caught up. They're a very interesting team. They're going to generate a lot of opinions, but it's too obvious. The books have caught up with it already. And it's such a tough division, and they've got so much to make up. I found it really hard to make a case. A really interesting team from a baseball point of view, but not the most interesting team from a betting point of view. So I really did struggle. I had to work hard to try and unearth one or two players picks for later on. So yeah, I feel like the books are onto it. And obviously that line movement you mentioned, 82.5 to 85.5. You've got them at 88, which is a big old number. So yeah, I just feel like the books have noticed as well, because we've all been waiting for it to happen. So whether it does or not, I don't really know.
See, I mean, they're kind of a public team. They really are. I think it's
they definitely have. I mean, look, if you go and look at Pete Alonso for RBI leader right now, guess what? He's the third favorite in the entire league to do that. There's, a lot of these guys. It's interesting, Mal, because you had said they sort of faded, but there's a lot of names that everybody recognizes. Everybody knows Gunnar. Everybody knows Pete. Adley, I mean, if you had been following baseball at all, that he was, a highly touted prospect and called up and was very successful. I mean, this team won 101 games just 2 seasons ago. So you had the 101 win season. You had a 91 win season, which also weirdly sort of felt like a failure because they just sort of flamed out at the end. And then obviously that was the year that they lost Corbin Burns to free agency. And when I looked at their record for 75 wins, I was actually shocked that they won that many games last year, because their starting pitching staff, we had recorded an episode, I think at the end of April, and basically just trashed the GM and the management for how they kind of put together a starting pitching rotation that was basically depending on Grayson Rodriguez and Kyle Bradish, both who were hurt or coming off of severe injuries, to lead that rotation. And it wasn't really until they got Trevor Rogers in there towards the middle half of the season where you had any specific starter that you could actually feel confident. You had Charlie Morton, Cade Povich, Sagano. I mean, this was like a just scrap heap of starting pitching. And I have to think that they were down so many times early in games that it did have an impact on the lineup. And also, I think they were just kind of tired of Brandon Hyde. I think there was a lot of that going on with this team. Dean Kramer, another guy, although his expected ERA was actually pretty good last year. So either way, a lot of people, I think, coming into this season, they're going to look at Taylor Ward. They're going to look at Pete Alonso. I can't wait to talk more about my boy Basayo, who I think should just be replacing Adley. But really what I think they did on the pitching side is where I'm actually more excited coming into this season for this team.
Yeah, the way I looked at it on this team, because I think actually the Trevor Rogers deal, I remember it was because I always get the last 2 years mixed up. The 2024, they grabbed Trevor Rogers when they really needed. Eflin was hurt, and there's they need to make a move, and they're like, we overpaid. They wildly overpaid for Trevor Rogers. I think we can all say unless Trevor Rogers goes out and wins 2 straight Cy Youngs, the Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby for Trevor Rogers is not going to, in my opinion, age well, but we can get there. But then, I think what they're trying to do this year is a 6-man rotation, which like last year everybody was like really excited about Batista. Like this bullpen was 25s away across the board. Like you said, like now, like they kind of went away and they just never got good. And to your point, this is definitely still a public team because like they're 2 years removed from 100 wins and then getting bounced, by the way, in the first round. Like I believe Texas swept them, if I do recall. Pretty sure Texas swept them.
I think it was Kansas City. Well, they did. Texas swept them, and then Kansas City also then the next season swept them.
So both 2 years of that. But so I think it's like, but you know, whether it's because they have a, you know, again, because the CBA is about to expire or it's, you know, relatively new ownership over the last couple of years, they went all in and they had a lot of lineup tinkering and a lot of things happening. And I guess let's kind of move it over to that. I want to talk about the Basello stuff. So, you know, are there players at least that you're kind of liking on this team that you really want? I'll start with Mal. Is, you know, interesting from baseball, maybe interesting from a betting perspective. Anybody on the hitter side that you've kind of looked at all?
By the way, I'm disappointed with you boys. I'm live sweating Team USA in the Cricket World Cup. And I don't think you two are because there's not enough like eyes darting to the screen. I bet them at even money, and they are currently about 1 to 1,000 now. They're about.
Well, now we'll give that feedback for our sponsor to make sure that we've got international cricket as a sport.
I was sweating Ramaz Dalin points during our recording the other day, and because I have him for most points in the tournament and for Sweden, and that right now that looks good. So right now I have nothing to sweat at 11 a.m. That's the thing. It's a good thing for us. So they're
currently crushing the Netherlands. It's going to land me my first bet of the weekend, which is good. I don't think there's American among them, by the way, Team USA. I haven't spotted one. It's clearly a load of Indian fellas, but you know what I mean. Happy days. Baseball-wise, the top 5's really strong, isn't it? It's a really powerful top 5. Taylor Ward's good. The rest of them are fine. Obviously, Gunner's got the profile. Trying to find a bet out of them. CJ already mentioned that Alonso just looks too short. Right-handed power isn't great in that ballpark. So, round about 12 to 1 for home run leader. The other markets, the runs and the ribbies, kind of Ohtani's ruining them. If you're betting on any of them, you're betting on a Shohei injury, which I don't mind doing that in baseball because it happens. You get an incredible amount of injuries. So Alonso didn't really blow my skirt up, and especially like going to a new team, you expect a slow start maybe, and then that power thing. The bottom half of the order is pretty bang average. I mean, they were bottom third all over the place last lineup, even defense, bullpen. But I do like the rotation. The rotation's fairly solid. You can make a case that Chris Bassett had maybe his best season last year. Like some of his metrics and stuff were all right.
Bassett is a great fourth, and he'll be the 4th or 5th guy in that rotation too.
He doesn't have to pitch 33 times either. They could give him 28 starts, and he's going to be perfectly fine.
Because they've got Kramer down there. What you're talking about is 6-man rotation. People always say that until they don't, and it will end up at 5, I think. But in the meantime, Kramer's there. Povich, you mentioned. I don't mind Povich. Povich's quite interesting. Like every 5th day, I can sometimes say, right, it's a shitty Tuesday. There's nothing happening. Oh, Cade Povich is starting. Let's find the Cade Povich angle. So Povich is a really interesting sort of on a 5-day cycle to find a better. Not scheduled to make the starting rotation at the minute. And even Wells is all right as well on that
Tyler Wells is on
cycle.
That. Yeah.
He'll sort of be the long guy in the bullpen. So batting wise, I don't mind it. I like it. It's a clear and obvious improvement. I'm not breaking any news there. There's people like Kierstadt, Kobe Mayo, some of these names that have been bandied around for years. Again, can they make a step forward? But I couldn't find a betting pop at all. Gunnar Henderson was the one which I think you've liked. 15 to 1 MVP is perfectly good value. Yeah. The profile is there. elite war, defensive value, and Peter
Premium
Alonso
position.
being there helps him out as well. Judge is the obvious one, but I think behind Judge, I think Henderson represents better value than Bobby Witt, Cal Raleigh, J-Rod. I think Henderson should be maybe a tier above. So I think he's overpriced. So from any of those batters, that was the one pick. And I think, Adam, it was a pick that you've sent me about 600 picks to go through so far. So
it's my big sport.
I think Gunnar Henderson was one of them.
Yeah. He's definitely the one. He's one of the ones we really like that. I mean, to your point, it's just, like Pete Alonso's home run line is set at 42.5, which is just, I mean, yeah, like
it's a little high for me, and I swear I'm not saying that with any bias. That's a lot of ding.
It's a little high for me because, I also, the one thing I do worry about with this lineup is this lineup does well when everybody's able to play and do whatever. Like Jordan Westberg started to get cluster injuries last year, and Colin Cowser finally got an injury last year. Westberg's already, by the way, a little banged up, and that's one of those guys who they are obsessed with in this lineup. They have tried him out. Brandon Hyde was. I'm not sure how this will change, but they wanted him to lead off. That he is sort of that less even so than Gunnar. It's that, and also, I mean, what do you guys think? Let's kind of move to. What are you kind of expecting out of Adley? Was last year what we're actually supposed to get out of Adley, or is he like a JT Realmuto, in his prime type of guy where he's going to give you a 20 and 90? Because Adley was terrible last year, and then Basello came up, and Basello had 8 at bats, and they're like, "Yep, we're good," and they signed him to a long-term contract. By the way, he was drafted. He's drafted after Adley, so Adley hasn't even gotten his extension, and Basello is going to be a career Oriole. CJ, Basello's your dude. So give me what do you we made actually a lot of money on the under Adley. Adley had 2 home runs in the first game of the season, and it was never a sweat again for his under home runs. But I don't know. What's the kind of move with Adley versus your guy Basello? They have him slotted in the 9th slot right now.
Yeah, I mean, Basello, I think I said this when we had the pod with Javon that I know will be up later, where I'm still looking and waiting to see when he gets added to a couple more of them. I want to target him for a market more power related. I want to get him in some sort of band with home runs. We had last year, for example, we had the Adley under, was it 21.5 home runs that we had
23.
By the way, 23, and he hit 2 in the opening game. And then it completely just trailed off after that. So, that's more of where I'm looking. I don't really see a market for him right now. The one other player, though, now you kind of mentioned this guy, because if we're looking, so we all, I think, agree that the Orioles are a more public team heading into this season than they certainly finished last season. And there's a lot of guys you're just not getting great numbers on. Westberg, by the way, isn't even listed for a lot of props, but that could just be because he's hurt. What is your guys' take on Ryan Helsley? Because when he first got signed, I actually really liked the signing, and I know everybody's going to remember how much of a dumpster fire he was with the Mets, but it's not like he was this type of pitcher the entire season. In fact, up until he was basically with the Cardinals, he was under a 2 ERA, right around his career whip average. He's still in the 99th percentile for relievers in terms of fastball velo, still has an excellent breaking ball. That's the kind of the guy that I'm looking at and going, have people realized that Ryan Helsley still might be Ryan Helsley from St. Louis, and he just might have had a really bad stint or a bad couple months?
I had Ryan Helsley top of my list of, if I was to rank my Orioles players, Ryan Helsley saves leader. 30-1 was my price. My prices sometimes over here are absolutely way off.
No, that's great. I love that.
Is that about right? Yeah. I have to check with Adam on some stuff. 30-1. Basically, the saves market is opportunity knocks, doesn't it? And opportunity knocks, I think, for Baltimore. If Baltimore are going to get to your 88 wins, Baltimore are going to win tied games. If Baltimore are going to compete and drag the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Red Sox back towards them, they're going to do it by winning the 1-run games, the 2-run games. An opportunity knocks for Helsley to do it. And that's about all you can say going into the saves mark. If you're betting these kind of props, he's demonstrated he can do it before. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, he owns that skill, he owns that ability. So yeah, 100% at that 30-1. CJ was a live play, and I will be having it.
That's a good angle also too for everybody to think about, is that if you're looking at teams that are going to be jumping up, then they have to reverse the 1-run, 2-run games that they might have lost last year. It's a very smart way.
It was always Cleveland, wasn't it? Who got all the saves for Cleveland for years?
Oh, Class A.
Yeah,
we took his under. We hammered his under last year, and then it turned out that he was aggressively cheating, so it was even better. Like cashed in July, it was great. So,
well, you can get also if you want to play more of like the floor side of that. So, by the way, I love the saves leader one too, there, Mal, because he's 2 seasons removed from literally in 2024 on a crappy mid Cardinals team. He had 49 saves. So he can rack up. He had 21 last year, obviously with a bad year, but 30 plus saves for him to get it at plus 155. I kind of like that. If you can find a little bit of a better number, but I think just to play that along with
it's just for 30,
just for 30 is plus 155.
Yeah.
So
a lot.
To Mal's point, like they're going to be playing likely in a lot of closer games. The division's going to be very competitive. I think the AL in general will surprise people in that there will be more competitive teams in the AL this year than the sort of the discrepancy between the AL and NL. So yeah, I think that's sort of the one Oriole from a player future perspective that I don't think the market is quite caught on, and he will be their opening day closer. They have said that he will be the guy, so it's his job to lose, and I think that there's some value with him.
One of the ones that I looked at as you guys were doing that, like I put the Ryan Helsley in there because like one of the ways that like Mal jokes and everybody jokes, they're like Adam has like a billion futures because like what I do is I'm just like, well, here's some floor bets that are like I kind of approach it like a fantasy perspective of like these are all guys that I want to buy stock in and I believe in it and we're going to do it this way and it would probably be easier if I did best ball or something like that, but that's a good way to do it. But something that also caught my eye is we all like Gunnar Henderson for MVP, which is probably the ceiling version of this bet, but Gunnar Henderson to steal 30 bags is plus 275. And so he stole 30 last year on a team that was tinkering the lineup the entire time. And obviously that was a career high, but that's also really what he's going to need either way. He's not shy to do it. Plus 275 for him to have 30. I mean, let me just look at what the number even is for given what the number would probably be. He's minus 145 for 20. So they're basically saying that they don't even know if he does that. Like, I think that the 30 is a great ceiling thing on that, but that Helsley, the Helsley 30 saves is great because I completely had missed till the offseason that Batista, his arm fell off again, and so he's out. And I just think that that's a really sharp angle to play on this. So I guess then kind of get into it. Did this Mal, do you think that this rank this team in order of like the other ones in the AL East? Do you think that they improved the most? Like, is this a division winning team or is this a top 2 team?
Just in terms of that stolen base prop, by the way, I think Baltimore need to get back a little bit more small ball because to take a step forward, they need to introduce that because they're in this powerhouse of division. So they need to do something a little bit different. They ranked 13th in steals last year in MLB. And I think they can do a little bit more because they need to make things happen. I really struggle to get them not anywhere near. I struggle to get them to the top end of this division. 19 games they would need to make up on the Blue Jays and the Yankees. That's a lot. That's a big old swing in it. And I don't see a big drop off from either team, even if the Yankees can be bad, we'll still get to.
You may want to tune into our Blue Jays preview, Mal, because it's not going to be that kind. I think
it's so funny because people also, by the way, undervalue this Yankees team. By the way, like not to turn this into that, but people like wait for the like. How many times have people like, oh, the Yankees are done in June, and like Yankees still end up
best team in baseball over the last 7 weeks. I mean, they were literally the best hitting team in baseball the entire second half of the season. But
they can have a poor season and they'll get to 86. They're like, there's so many blockers for this Baltimore team. And that's before we factor in Boston, by the way. How many 14 wins behind Boston? It's like you can't just discount Boston. And Tampa Bay just muddy the waters. That's their job. Like, they just go and sort of obstruct everybody who's trying to have a lovely time in that division anyway. So, plus 475 for the division. I just couldn't get there. I can't see a way for them to win the division. The playoff odds are correct. I think AL teams needed to win 87 games last year to get to the playoffs, the which you've got them going, but the books have got them going 85. Adding 12 wins is a lot for me. The bookies have bought the dip, so I think the value has to be on the under. I mean, it's a board. I won't be playing it. I won't be having a stack of money on the under to double it. Sure. 7 months' time. Do you know what I mean? I just won't be. But I think, like I say, the bookies have bought it. And for me, the value's gone. It's already gone. They're not sneaking up on anyone, unfortunately. And you've got 3 blockers in the way, all with, I think, a little bit of improvement in them. So even if Baltimore do improve, there's just it's too much to ask this season, in my opinion.
You need a couple of things to go with that. I think having I was looking at who Albernaz. So like with the Steels, to the Steels point, Albernaz is a Cleveland guy and he's a Giants guy. Like, so they those are teams that have been aggressive like that. So that might be the angle. And while I'm high on this Orioles team and lower on this Toronto team, I kind of agree with you that over the last 3 years, we kind of don't know which Orioles team we're getting, because we've seen the high end of them of like, oh, this is a core that could win 104 games. And then we've also seen, whoa, this is a team that could be a 70-win team that's kind of rudderless. And it's also, look, a lot of change. They overhauled their entire roster, like their entire pitching rotation minus 2 guys is almost completely new. So and redid the bullpen.
Let me ask you guys this question real quick. Yeah. I want to throw out Toronto for a second, but let's just compare them to the Yankees and the Red Sox. Which of these teams, if from a depth perspective, if there's a major injury, is able to recover the best?
My opinion, the Orioles.
I think I agree. I think it's either them or the Red Sox, because, and Scott's going to probably kill me for this whenever we record the pod, but like, I still can't keep getting out of my head.
Hater of his own teams, Scott Reichel.
As much as we love Aaron Judge, that this Yankees team always comes down to like, is Judge going to play a full season and be basically a 10-WAR player? And if so, then they're going to be great. But if there's anything that happens to Judge, and I put this team against the Red Sox and the Orioles, I don't care how good the Yankees starting pitching is. Rodon's not even necessarily going to be ready or coming back on time as is, and we're coming with Cole, also coming off of TJ.
2 guys on the 60.
So I think that's where I'm like a little bit more, I guess, than you, Malt, on this team, a little more bullish, because I think that at least from the lineup side, I know the Orioles can absorb some hits, and from the pitching side, they have a little bit more depth now. They do really need Bradish and Rogers to come out and be the 1-2 that they're hoping that they can be. But I also don't see it as a situation last year where it's like, when Bradish wasn't ready and Rodriguez wasn't ready, they were completely screwed. They had no plan B. And this season, I feel like they are in much better position to handle for that kind of thing.
I think in terms of recovering, the thing the Yankees and the Red Sox is, they don't necessarily have to recover from within their organization. They can't just get the checkbook out, where Baltimore, okay, who's the next guy up? Yankees can just fly in a replacement. We don't.
Yeah, they just paid Pete Alonso $30 million a year, though. Like for, that was a pretty significant overpay compared to market and what he was looking for.
Because like the Mets weren't even willing to give him 3. So yeah,
at the trade deadline, if they're struggling, and all of a sudden the Yankees lineup might look nothing like this Yankees lineup. You know what I mean? True. It's just so in terms of recovery, I think they can do it with that pockets where Baltimore would be more likely to do it from within.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. I think also one thing to note about gaining on the Yankees, and you got to also remember, like, I really hated Brandon Hyde, and I just thought he was the worst manager for this. I think it is really important to note that of all the coaches that they got rid of, once again, I keep saying this, but Bucky Britton, who was the manager for all of these young guys on the team, he's the third base coach now. He's not the bench coach anymore, but they moved him to being part of the team last year, which I think is really important for Gunnar development. It's important for Adley. It was important for Westberg, important for Kalser because he was their minor league coach. He's their third base coach. When the Yankees spiraled in June of 24, the CJ, you and I said this all the time. That was when the Orioles should have stepped on their throat.
They could have stepped on their throat. Yeah,
and
then they didn't. Yep, they didn't bury him. It's just like the same thing with the Mets that year with the Braves. They had a chance to kind of bury him, and they didn't.
And they didn't do it. And so look, I could see the argument on both sides. I guess like for me, there's some things that I'm playing on the higher side of it. So we can kind of move this into some of the overall ceiling bets. But like my favorite personal bet for this team is them to have the best record at 80-1. Because I think that if everything goes right for this team, is actually not the World Series. They're the fourth shortest odds to win the pennant, but they're 80-1 to have the most wins. And part of that is, look, Dodgers tax, because the Dodgers exist. By the way, I remind everybody, the Dodgers had 93 wins last year. They did not have the most wins in baseball. They had to play a wild card game. They didn't even have a bye. And if they are able to, I'm much lower on this version of this Rays team. Like the Sparky Rays team that we see in years past. This is like my least favorite version of them, but we'll see. We know it's going to happen. They're going to still win 75 games and annoy everybody. And given how down I am on some of the moves I think that Toronto went, I think there's a lot of room. That the high ceiling way of them picking up stuff to me is they could win 97 games and have the best record in baseball. And I think 80-1 is too long for a team that, if you want to play fantasy manager on paper, they got a whole bunch of new things that could happen on that. So that was like my one favorite way to play the ceiling on this team.
I agree with you that that's the way to play this team. Like there's a huge range of outcomes. Playing the middle set of outcomes just does not appeal particularly. I'm thinking plus 170 for them to record 90 wins, which is all right. But again, it's a short price, long time to wait. I think you've exactly got the right attitude to this team. It's that you play the extremes, whether it's one end or the other. There might be someone who wants to play the other end, which is as likely they might win 68 games. But I think playing the extremes on this team, to me, makes more sense than playing something fairly steady, fairly stoic in the middle.
So as we kind of shifted to over-under, so over-under on the win total, where are you on this team?
I think the value, I think the value's gone. Like, I would be betting it, but I would have to take the under at evens. Because I just think the value.
What is it, under 85.5?
Under 85.5, yeah.
Yep.
Not being big or clever. I just think that's a value play. It's a
no, I agree. Because like basically what you're saying, if you're saying over, then you might as well say 90 wins. And you are like, I don't think this is a 90-win team. So yeah.
Go further up the ladder, yeah.
Yep. Nope. I agree. I totally get it. CJ?
You know what? It's funny because I just had to actually look at what were because I don't want to get in a situation where I am so high on every AL East team that would just be the Yankees, Red Sox, and Orioles. And I wanted to see what was their win total in comparison. So the Yankees is 91.5, Red Sox 87.5, Orioles 85.5. And I absolutely can see a scenario where all three of those teams are above 85 wins. Like that is 100% in play.
It happened last year. Like three teams in the AL.
Two years ago, it happened with the NL East. Like this does happen. So I agree with Mal. Your point on like I don't think I would bet. Actually, you can get an 84.5, by the way, at minus 115. It looks like on DraftKings, but it's not one that I would want to bet at this number compared to where it was when it opened. But if I have to lean one way or the other, I'm probably leaning the over on, especially if it's 84.5. I think the other way to play it, other than best record, I talked about this on, I think it was the A's podcast that we did, where you can bet straight forecast, you can bet where they finish in the division. So the two ways you can also play that would be right now, if you bet them to, let's say if you just think that they will be better than the Jays and then better than the Rays. So if you think they're just better than the Jays and the Rays, you can bet them to finish either third at plus 270, second at plus 370, or first at 5-1. If you split that across, that is a relatively EV way for you to be able, just basically if they finish top 3, you're going to get essentially almost like a 2-to-1 payout for that. So that's one interesting way to play it. The other one is
you could also round robin an exacta. Of
you could, so this is where I was going with this too, is where you could actually do the round robin. By the way,
this is very
of the exacta, where you do a straight forecast and you just do the first, second, and you pick, hey, I'm going to have Orioles second, which would be, so Red Sox first, Orioles second, 16-1, Yankees first, Orioles second, 850. And then if you want to play the first place ones, you just do first place Orioles, 20-1, second Red Sox. I kind of like that one the most, actually. And then first place Orioles, second place Yankees. That one is 15-1. So you can get creative in how you want to play sort of some of those different round robins, but I do like the finishing division where you just kind of like fire on those 3 and you're like, you basically created a synthetic hold of like 2-to-1 for them to finish top 3.
I love it. You see, by the way, and I mentioned this a lot, I still have a little bit of an imposter syndrome talking about baseball with people like you in this silly accent, and I'm still learning, 100% still learning. Like, I think my job on the show is just to allow everyone else to have a lovely time. Like, I'm not much use. And stuff like that, CJ, is absolutely spot on. Like, Lonty had me betting, like, first 3 inning props last year, which was perfect before I went to bed, because the game started at midnight for me. So I torched up all night. But I can get a 45-minute betting in the first 3. So the list of things that I can gamble on is getting longer and longer, CJ, and you've just added another one for me. So thank you.
I just got a text live while we were talking that says, "Hey, just so you know how you like Kyle Bradish for Cy Young? Yeah, well, BetMGM says he's the most ticketed player to win Cy Young.
Really?
So, like,
we haven't talked about him yet, Adam, because he's on our list.
That bet is dead, and that line hasn't moved. So their model is not worried. No, but I mean, but Mal, like, you play on your travel team, and you love the sport. Like, you love the sport. Like, we all got into it. CJ and I met in a Discord and we approached it in completely different ways. Like, CJ had like models that he was doing for stuff, and I was like, watch the games and this and this, and then we now we run a data company on the side where I'm like, can we model this? And he's like, what? He's like,
I stopped texting Adam about what is so and so projected, because I would just get a response back of, cool, sure, I'm betting this, and I'm like, okay,
or the under. But okay, so I want to. So go around. What's like gun to head, Mal? Like, do you have any sort of favorite bet that you would have on this team, whether it's a fun market or another one, like something you might have mentioned earlier, you can bring back up as your final kind of favorite bet?
The USA have won the cricket, by the way. They brought
there
we go, USA, etc.
I believe that we will win.
Yeah.
I don't mind Helsley. We looked at Bradish. In fact, I couldn't find a price on him yesterday. No, sorry, it wasn't him. I was looking for Bradish in the fancy prices, and he wasn't in the fancy prices. He was 35-1. Again, the books had caught up to it. They were one step ahead. I thought I was being really clever. Because Bradish, he's going to be potentially their ace. And 35-1 was too short. And then I started looking at Shane Baz, which is what I had to ask you for a price was. Now, my books had everyone listed down to 200-1, and Shane Baz wasn't there. So I thought he might have been really fancy. I asked you. You told me at Bet Rivers he was 100-1, which was slightly underwhelming. So this might be a shop around situation. Because I like him. I've always liked him. I followed him a long time. And I think there's a ceiling there with Shane Baz. And if Baltimore are going to be the winning most team in MLB, like you reckon, then Shane Baz is going to be a reason for that. So at a huge price, this is one of those where you see, you go into the season with a long list. I'll take the change that I've just won on the United States, and it'll be going on Shane Baz at a fancy price.
Like our Cole Reagan strikeout bet.
I'll forget all about it until next November when 600 quid pops into me account, and I'm like, woo.
I love it.
But yeah, I did mind Shane Baz. Helsley and Baz would be the two, I think.
That's a good one. CJ, wrap it up. What's your favorite bet on this team?
I love the I forgot about Baz is in this rotation too. Gunner MVP. That was one we liked. And And I think honestly, I think the Helsley 30+ saves at plus 155 as well for me is something I'm going to literally put in right after we're done recording here. Those two. And the most wins, I mean, we're it's like the Mariners. We're going to be highly leveraged on this team. So I feel like there's a bunch of ceiling bets we can play. But the Helsley and Gunnar are kind of my two that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, bringing us that Helsley bet was fantastic. I like that Helsley angle. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as that. I'd also look at Miguel Cairo is the infield coach for this team. I expect them to actually have a solid infield. Like these are little things that I've started to look at. I think that is a notable person helping everyone with their infield. I know CJ's got to go. Mal, tell everybody where they can find you.
Baseball, MLB gambling podcasts, and if you like a bit of soccer, the Premier League gambling podcast. We cover absolutely everything. And obviously the World Cup's coming up, which is in your country. So we'll be covering the World Cup in too much detail, starting quite soon. So if you're looking for a World Cup fix, come and find me and Barry.
You're referring to Canada, Mexico as part of our country, right? That's what you were saying there. Okay, just to check.
Tournament starts. He's probably annexed them as well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We have games in Greenland.
We are chugging along on this. Again, thanks to our sponsor, Hall of Fame Bets, HOFapp.com. Use code DADS, 50% off. We are chugging through all these previews. We will see you soon for another one. No shows next. Well, we'll drop shows next week, but no recordings next week. But we still got a bunch of teams to go. So thanks for stopping by.